everyone, and welcome back to the channel where your likes, comments, and subs are always greatly appreciated. So, Zoom just released a new firmware update for the R20 multi-track recorder. This is going to bring your firmware up to version 3.0. Zoom started off by releasing the R20 with version 1.0 firmware, and then in the spring of 2022, they updated it to version 2.0. In the summer of 2022, they updated it to 2.4. And then in September, October of 2022, they've now updated it to version 3.0. So it just really dropped, at least in North America, on the Zoom website. I think based on your region that you're in, the firmware update, the software may drop slightly different days. There could be a couple different delay on it, but it really just depends on your region. But I think most of the regions will get the software soon. So what is in version 3.0 for that firmware update? Well, there's a couple different things. One, when you first turn on the R20, you're given now the option that if you wanted to, you could immediately format a new SD card. It's not really a mind-blowing feature, but it is convenient if you are using SD cards all the time or different SD cards. You just put an SD card in and you'll hold down record and then turn on the power. And when you do, you're going to be, after the splash screen, you will be prompted, do you want to format your SD card? You could ask to execute, you could do that, and then it'll immediately format your SD card. This is just convenient. If you keep putting in SD cards, you're ready to go. Additionally, they fixed a bug where if you were recording over and over again onto one track, so you're taking multiple takes on one track. Say you have a guitar plugged into input 1 and you're recording onto track 1, you don't like your initial take, you do another take, you do another take, you do another take, all on track 1. I guess there was a bug that if you did this a lot, you could freeze up track 1 and the R20 would no longer record to that track. The firmware update suggests that it would take up to 100 times. I don't know if that's entirely accurate, if it could have been just 30 times and taken in 30 takes. Would it freeze up the track? I'm not sure. But people have reported that they were having issues with recording in the comments section of some of my other videos, and it's possible that they were experiencing a bug or a variation of a bug like that. So it's possible Zoom has cleared that up. So for people who had been doing multiple takes, and if you ran into any kind of problems, hopefully that has now been resolved by Zoom. They also mentioned in the firmware update that they fixed a variety of minor bug issues. They do not specify what they are, but stuff behind the scenes. And who knows what they kind of fixed or did not fix. I'm not exactly sure because they're not outlined, but I'm sure they're just doing continuous improvements and hopefully efficiency improvements with the software. So the big difference with going up to version 3.0 for the firmware is that you'll eventually, or hopefully very soon, be able to use the iOS app if you have the BTA1 Bluetooth adapter. So you need to purchase this adapter, which is separate. It's a separate charge. It's just this small, tiny little guy. And you plug it into the side of the R20. You can activate the R20's Bluetooth signal then and link it and have it communicate to the iOS app that Zoom is developing for the R20. With that, in the information that they released for firmware version 3.0, it looks like that the iOS app is only going to be available for the iPad, at least initially. Now, when you look at any of the advertisement on the Zoom website, you can see clearly that they're displaying the app in an iPhone. So I would assume, or I'd like to assume anyway, that the app will eventually come to an iPhone. I think there's a lot more iPhone users out there than there are iPad users, even though I'm sure there's plenty of iPads out there. But the bottom line being that right now Zoom chose to only focus on developing the iOS app for the R20 with the iPad. I can understand why. There's a lot more screen real estate, obviously, to work with, so it could be more useful to use the iPad because you could probably see more tracks at the same time, easier to get through the menus than it would be on a smaller iPhone that, screen-wise, size-wise, is only a little bit bigger than what is on this screen here. So I can understand why Zoom maybe at least initially chose to focus on that. I just hope that they also release the app for the iPhone. So I used my iPad and I went to the App Store. I have a 5th gen iPad mini. I typed in R20 control and searched the App Store. No app shows up. You do get the L20 control that'll show up, but there's nothing, at least right now, that's showing up in the USA App Store, the iOS App Store for the R20 Control app. So if I pull up the Zoom Corporation on the App Store, you can see that they have a variety of apps for their different devices. But as you scroll through here, there is no app for the R20. You only have apps for some of like their F series and some of the handy Guitar Lab, handy recorders, but nothing for the R20 multi-tracker, unfortunately. So it could be that Zoom released the firmware update. They wanted to post the software to their website, but then it takes a while for the app to go through and get approved through the App Store. Apple has to approve it. There could be a couple days of a delay on that, which is normal for anybody who's submitting software to the Apple App Store. So it could be that that's the case. As soon as the app is available, I will test it out on my iPad, and I'll provide more information in a separate video. So that's all I really wanted to cover for today. There is a new firmware version 3.0 update. If you're looking for how to update the firmware, I did post a video to that. I'll put a link up there and also a link in the description for this video. You can go to that. Very easy to do, to be able to post, or very easy to be able to download the software and update the firmware for your R20. So that's all I wanted to cover for this video. Promise to bring more content once I'm able to actually try out that iOS app. But for now, hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks.